Madam, today this India aging report that has come, three important points have been talked about the economy, about the health, and also the digital education on a bigger, larger scale. But what more you can add value, and the Secretary of Social Justice was also here today to inaugurate the report.
Thank you so much. I think our value is in really bringing together the data in an integrated way on what the aging trend is and how it will impact the economy and communities themselves. So first and foremost, if we look at the population data, we have 147 million elderly persons right now in India. In just 27 years, that number will be 350 million. So we know also by the end of the century, 1 in 3 Indians will be a senior citizen. Just try to imagine that. It's quite astounding and quite alarming. So it means that the government has to work hard to continue the programs it's begun and also to accelerate, whether it's using technology, whether it's really looking at home care and how that's remunerated, and how we can ensure that India has the resources it needs, not only to care for the elderly, but also to harness their expertise and their wisdom and knowledge and experience. We know with the largest cohort of youth in the world here in India, it's quite a richness and a big resource for the country to capture its demographic dividend. But we also know that one of the ways that it can better capture that youthful opportunity is by pairing the expertise and the knowledge and the wisdom of older persons. Without that, the learning curve of young people will take much longer, and India could risk losing its demographic dividend.
One good point is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has had a special interest in the elderly, and a lot of schemes may have come in last few years, which are positive, but at the same time, for a big elderly population that you have and we both know, this could be alarming and challenging as well. What you said is difficult.
Well, I think that the government's on the right track. The government has implemented helplines, the government has implemented subsidies and support. It's looking at improving its elder care capacity. So it's looking in the right areas, but really the question's going to be how to make sure that those resources grow as the population's growing, and that it can meet the demand that will inevitably occur. The data also tells us that the majority of elderly are in rural areas, and they're often alone. So how can we bring together the youthful population and the elderly? How can we better use technology to support their needs? How can we bring those modernizations together to support the traditional?
The Government of India has just come up and said that 18 crore of our Indian population has come out of the poverty line, and certainly there will be a lot of elderly population involved in that. So that also is a positive sign, but still long way to go. What is your assessment about the large population countries vis-a-vis the report that you have seen here that has been launched today? What is a contrast and the comparison that you could draw on that?
Well, again, the large population for us is a demographic bonus. India is very well placed to move into the next century with this youthful population and with its aging population. But as I said, it's a question of gauging the cost and the benefit, and where the government can get the best bang for its buck to meet everybody's needs and to continue the sustainable economic growth. So it's not an easy equation for any country.
What could be your three important pointers that India should look into next 6 to 8 quarters, or maybe a little longer?
I think it would have to be a little longer than that, because frankly, a lot of the government schemes that have been initiated are relatively new. So it's still a question of assessing how successful they've been.
And scaling them.
And scaling. And so that will take a little bit more time to have the good quality data, and then understanding which ones are worth scaling and which ones need to be course corrected. But as I said, I think the initiatives are on the right track, but to be continued, to watch, and to not lose sight of, because the problem's not, or the problem and the challenge and the richness is not going to go away. It's only going to get bigger. as we head towards the next century. So India is having the right foresight. It had it already back 2 decades ago when it implemented its population policy, 3 years ahead of the Madrid aging and population policy. So it's always seen it. But now I think it's time to speed up, and it knows it has to do that, and UNFPA will be there to support.
This point has also come that during the COVID, the situation of elderly was exposed to the worldwide and also in India. Where do you see how that could be mitigated, if you can speak in nutshell on that?
Yeah. There was a report launched last year by Help Age International that we supported, and it really tried to look at the best lessons learned about how to support the elderly during COVID. And there were many lessons that came out. The subsidies that were provided, the early vaccinations, the community-based care, the helplines that enabled elderly to reach out and get what they needed, were all excellent initiatives that don't have to wait for a pandemic, that can all be continued in the day-to-day.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for the wonderful report that has come out, and we all look forward to it, and I hope the government takes all the pointers that this report has come out, and it will be good for the elderly, because India elderly population is growing much faster than the normal population.
That's right, but I'm confident things are moving in the right direction, and we will do our best to help support this intergenerational demographic transfer.
Thank you very much. With camera person Anchor-Pranab Prakhar reporting for Vision Television.